Good evening, my beautiful ladies. Thank you so much for joining us. We are back for our weekly classes. Baruch Hashem. Our class is dedicated Leilu Nishmat, Avram ben Tamara, Refuah Shlema, Gabriel ben Ima Shalom, Tamara bat Sarah, Esther bat Tamara, Zivug Shlomo ben Tamara, Sarah bat Regina Rachel Esther. Also, with your permission, I'm going to add some names. Leilu Nishmat, Ushua bat Chusni, Slana Tzvora Chaya bat Sarah, Sarah bat Chusni, Chusni bat Marit, Emmanuel ben Chusni, לא יצחי בן אויחן, רבי זכריה שמעון וולף, בן יצחק הכהן, דוקטור זלנקה, בלבל וולף, זאב בן לאה, רב חיים קניבסקי, כפיר בן שירי, אריאל בן שירי, שירי בת שרה אימנו, הרש גולדברג פיילן, and all the niftarim and niftarot who were killed, unfortunately, on October 7 before and after. And also for refuah shlema of all the sick people of Klal Israel, including Hannah Bracha Bas Chana Tzvora Chaya, Tamara bat Ksiya, Esther Malka bat Shura, Malkielcha bat Shura, Larissa Leah bat Shura, Yaakov Yitzchak Esther Malka, Ben Mazel bat Shura, and Maxim Yehuda ben Yafa, Moshe ben Yafa, Sarah bat Shoshana, Maya Mazal bat Ziva. For all those and all those who I didn't mention, they should be included. And for all those who are trying to get married, including Marlena Bracha bat Sarah and Leah bat Sarah Imenu, and all others who are still single, may Kadosh Baruch Hu send you the right Zivuk Bekarov this year. Also, Refuah Shlema for all the sick. And whoever is trying to conceive beautiful children should be blessed with gorgeous, beautiful children, including Sarah Ronit bat Bella Bracha. And all others who are trying to conceive, including Maya Mazal bat Riva, Malka bat Esther, and all others. And Refuah Shlema and Parnasat Tova for the entire Klal Yisrael. Parnasat should run after us. We should not run after Parnasat. We should sit at home, and Parnasat should come into our bank accounts, and our bank accounts should increase. And there should be peace in Eretz Israel, the United States, wherever the Jews reside. May Kadosh Baruch Hu protect us and bless us, continue blessing us, continue watching over us. And may we be zocher to see Mashiach Tzidkeinu, Barachamim Gdolim. And everybody should do Tshuva Shlema. And we should all be doing Tshuva Shlema b'nachad v'lo b'tzar. With your permission, give me one moment. We continue also for Refuah Shlema, Levi Yosef ben Zulaycha, the secret to Simcha. And we are on day 34, page 82. Serving Hashem with emes. When we serve Hashem l'shem shemayim, then it will be easier for us to strengthen ourselves in the fundamental mitzvah of speaking the truth. As is written in the tefillah of the holy Rabbi Elimelech Milizensk, may all the emotions be directed to one goal, to become closer to you with the truth. We learn from here that if we serve Hashem, l'shem shamayim, b'yichud, then we will serve Him with emes. Yet, if we do not perform mitzvahs for the sake of Hashem, then our emotions and viewpoints become distorted, and we erroneously assume that we must lie, chas v'shalom, for the sake of peace. Let us remember the awesome strength we possess. As the Chazal teach us, a person is led in the path that he wants to go. בדרך שאדם רוצה ללך, מוליכין אותו. When a person sincerely resolves that he will never utter a word of untruth, and he strengthens his heart to withstand the embarrassment, shame, or losses it may cost him, he will be zoche to great siyata d'shmaya. Indeed, through cultivating our inner values and looking away from our personal honor, we will have the strength to overcome challenges to speaking truth. Surely, we must also pray to Hashem for success in this lofty endeavor. When we are unafraid to say the truth, even if at times it may not be so comfortable, and we pay the price of embarrassment or losses for the sake of truth, we will be repaid 1,000-fold. We will be zoche to profound clarity, and we will most often be saved from uncomfortable situations of having to utter untruth for the sake of peace. We should not be afraid to say the truth, even if it is not so pleasant. For example, I admit that I did this thing that you disapprove of. I should have done what you told me, but I didn't. I forgot to do what you asked me to do. I'm sorry I lost the item you gave me. If we are ever faced with a challenge of lying, we should beseech Hashem, Ribono Shel Olam. Only you can save me and straighten out the situation so that I am not challenged to utter an untruth. Such a tefillah portrays that one's heart is overflowing with emunah, that one believes that Hashem has sent this challenge in order to test him, to see if he will overcome it and only speak the truth. Indeed, such a prayer is readily accepted by Hashem. If we truly want to exalt in the sweetness of Hashem's Shekhinah and experience His presence at every step of our lives, then we must sincerely resolve to only speak the truth. It surely is worthwhile to endure a small measure of embarrassment or loss for the sake of truth, and thus merit incredible brachos and zechusim. Wow. So in other words, it's teaching us that when we serve Hashem with emes, with truth, even if sometimes it could be difficult for us to say it or to admit it, or it's going to cause the embarrassment, chas v'shalom, or it can cause us losses a little bit, chas v'shalom. But if we resolve that we want to serve Hashem with emes and with truth, Hashem says, oh, you want to do it with emes and the truth? I will help you. Hashem says, I will help you. No problem. And Hashem will grant us siyata d'shmaya. Siyata d'shmaya means extra heavenly protection. Very important. Beautiful. We continue learning Zera Shimshon. And we are by our parsha, which is Lech Lecha. I'm sorry, Chaya Sarah. Lech Lecha was 2 weeks ago. Okay, Chaya Sarah. Crying versus really crying. And Abraham came to eulogize Sarah and to cry for her. The pasuk described that Abraham Avinu first eulogized Sarah and only then cried for her. Please excuse my hoarse voice. This seems to conflict with the normal occurrence of events. So when somebody dies, normally what do? We cry first, and then we eulogize. But here the pasuk says, Avram eulogized Sarah first, and then he cried for her. Usually, upon receiving the terrible news that a spouse passed away, chas v'shalom, one cries first, and then eulogize them. As well, according to halacha, the period set aside for eulogies is longer then that's set aside for crying. As the Gemara in Moed Katan 27b says, the first 3 days of Shiva are for crying, and all 7 are for eulogies. Wow. Based on this, the commentaries ask, why did Avraham Avinu first eulogize Sarah and only then cry for her? The Zerah explains, based on the Ma'avaria book, that crying during the eulogy brings great benefit to the soul of the departed. This is because by way of the tears, the gates of tears, which are never locked, will open up for the deceased to enter through. And in that area, the attribute of judgment is greatly mitigated through the tears. However, the Ma'avaria book cautions that this is only true, this is the condition, if the crying is for the benefit of the soul of the departed and not over the physical loss. For example, if my mother passed away, which my mother did from this world, and I'm crying because I miss her terribly. I feel bad that I lost my mother here in this physical world. And if I'm crying for this, then she's not going to get the benefit. But if I'm crying for the loss of potential that my mother had, that she did so much chesed in this world, she took care of her husband, of her kids, grandkids, and many, many people who knew her and came across, her. And I would feel bad that she could have done so much more in this world. And I'm crying for the loss of that potential chesed and love that she could have given and good deeds and good mitzvahs. If I'm crying for that, you hear the difference? Then the judgment that the person has to go through in Shamayim, it will be mitigated with the lessons. It will be reduced. This is why at first Avraham Avinu eulogized Sarah, and only then began to cry for her. He wanted his crying to be during the eulogy in order to give Sarah this great benefit mentioned in the Ma'avar Ya'abok. Another explanation is that the normal crying that one cries upon hearing or seeing bad news in a normal reaction and does not reflect the greatness of the loss, even the lowest person's death causes their relatives to naturally shed tears. So as Zerah says, even if somebody was the lowest person in the family, yet people would cry over him. However, the passing of a truly great person causes one to cry over his loss long after the eulogies, and natural crying is over. This was the case regarding Sarah, and therefore, even after the time for eulogizing Sarah was over, the loss of her greatness brought Avraham Avinu to cry. The passing of a great person leaves those behind saddened long after he passed away. Okay, so what we learned so far, crying versus really crying, so that when somebody close to us passes away, when we want to cry, we should remind ourselves, if we want to minimize, to mitigate the judgment, the new soul is going to the world of the souls right now, we should cry and have a kavanah for the crying. Believe it or not, you have to have a kavanah, that we're crying for the loss of the potential of this beautiful soul, for the loss of, that it cannot grow anymore. Once the person is upstairs in Shamayim, that's it, no more growth. And that will mitigate the judgment. The details of the exchange between Avram and Ephron. The field I have given you and the cave which is in it, I have given it to you. The commentaries ask that originally Ephron said he would hand over the field to Avraham Avinu free of charge. What made him switch his mind and charge Avraham Avinu so much money? Is that a question? And they explained that really Ephron wanted to sell the field to Avraham Avinu, not to give it to him. However, the halacha of Bar Metzra says that if someone wants to sell a piece of land, those that reside on its borders have rights to buy it before anyone else. Nevertheless, the Gemara in Baba Metzia 108b also rules that if the owner gives the land away as a present, the neighboring owners have no claim as first bidders on the land. For example, you want to sell the house. This is the property. And you have a house, let's say this is the property. You have a house on the right, you have a house on the left. So technically, your neighbors have a right of buying this property before anybody else. They have to be the first bidders. Okay, if you're giving that property as a gift, somebody as a present, then these neighbors, they cannot claim to be the first bidders on the land. Therefore, Ephron really wanted to sell the land to Avraham Avinu. However, in order that the Bnei Chais, that was the name of the neighboring people, Bnei Chais should not be able to claim that they have rights to buy it before Avraham Avinu. Ephron claimed that he was giving the land to Avraham Avinu as a present. Then, between him and Avraham Avinu, he sold it for 400 shekel. The Zera Shimshon says that this explanation doesn't match up with the fact that Avraham Avinu paid Ephron in front of everyone. This made it clear that it was a sale and not a present. Otherwise, Avraham Avinu should have given the money to Ephron in private. You hear what it says? Zera Shimshon. Therefore, the Zera Shimshon offers a different explanation as to what happened between Avraham Avinu and Ephron based on the following Gemara. The Gemara relates in Kiddushin 59a how Rav Gidal was trying to acquire a certain piece of land, and Rav Abba went ahead and bought it. When Rav Abba was confronted about this, he said that he had no idea that Rav Gidal was actually trying to buy that land. To make amends, Rav Abba offered the land to Rav Gidal as a present. He gave it rather than resell it to him because it was the first piece of land he bought, and it is not a good omen to sell one's first piece of land. Very interesting. We learn here that if it's a first property, it's not usually a good idea to sell it. However, Rav Gidal did not want to accept it for free, since the pasuk says in Mishlei 16:27, one who hates gifts will live. Again, one who hates gifts will live. Neither used that land, and it became known as the land of the rabbis. Wow. This, suggests Zera Shimshon, is perhaps what transpired between Avraham Avinu and Ephron. Ephron did not want to sell this land, since he saw such a piece of land as a bad omen. Therefore, he was willing to give it to Avraham Avinu for free. But knowing that Avraham Avinu would refuse taking a gift, Ephron hinted that Avraham Avinu could give you the money for the land as a present as well, that would take care of Avraham Avinu getting the land for free. Thus, Ephron never really changed from offering the land for free to charging for it. It was all to accommodate his own unwillingness to selling it. Wow. And Avraham Avinu's unwillingness to accept it as a present. Wow. This is why throughout the psukim detailing this acquisition, the Torah does not use the words Abraham acquired the field, etc. Acquired. After this transaction, the pasuk 23:17 uses the interesting terminology to describe the change in ownership, and the field arose. This is because the transaction This is because the transaction that took place between Avram Avinu and Ephron was not a regular purchase, but rather a switching of presents. Wow. So in other words, Ephron wanted to tell that I want to give this a land to Avram for free, because otherwise, if I have to sell it, I have to sell it to Bnei Ches. But I don't want to sell it to them. So I want to give it as a present to Avram Avinu. But the pasuk says, whoever hates taking gifts, he's going to live. So Avram Avinu is going to say, I don't need anything for free. I'm going to pay for it. And Ephron did not want to give it for free because he really wanted to get paid. So it says, oh, so we're going to hit two birds with one stone. So we're going to say that I'm giving it to Avram for free, but yet we're going to say to him, you know what, Avram? If you really want to pay for it, you could pay for it even as a present, as receiving it as a present, as a gift, but you could really pay for it. This way, he gets paid. He announces to his neighboring neighbors that it was given as a present, but Avram Avinu chose not to accept it as a present and to pay for it. And I'm taking 400 shekels for the land that I'm selling as Ephron. Interesting, right? Okay. Tips for the Eshes Chayil. Eshes Chayil was said by Avram Avinu as a eulogy about Sarah. The Shimshon explains the entire Eshes Chayil as it pertains to every righteous Jewish woman. So Eshes Chayil was for the first time it was said by Avram Avinu to his wife Sarah Imenu when she passed away. The source of blessing to the home, the wife. She bestows upon him good and not bad all the days of her life. Mishlei 31:12. The Shimshon asks that if she does good, why does the pasuk need to reiterate that she does not do him bad? Good question, right? The Shimshon answers based on the Gemara. Baba Metzia 59a, that says that blessing is only found in a home on account of the wife. The reason for this is based on the concept found in Mishlei. The pasuk says, through a trusted person, many blessings. On this pasuk, the Midrash Shemos Rabbah 51:1 says, whomever people put their trust into, Hashem sends blessings through him. Thus, being that a good wife trusts in her husband and is trustworthy to him, for this reason, Hashem sends bracha on behalf of the trusting wife through her husband in whom she places her trust. So if I'm trusting my husband, and because I'm trusting him and I'm trustworthy towards him, Hashem says, oh, she believes that the income should come, the parnasa should come through her husband. So you know what? I will support it, and Hashem says, I will give a blessing because she trusts that her husband will bring the income in. With this, the Shimshon explains the aforementioned pasuk. She bestows upon him good, the blessing, good, that comes to a person on behalf of his wife is due to the words that are mentioned at the end of the pasuk, and not bad. That the wife is the starting point for the cycle of this blessing. She trusts and is entirely trustworthy to her husband and does him no harm. She does him no harm. In other words, the first part of the pasuk is not referring to the good actions of the wife as originally thought, which led to the question of the double wording in the pasuk. Rather, it refers to the good that comes to the house on behalf of the wife. And the second part of the pasuk, and not bad, is actually the part that describes in what married the blessing comes. The pasuk ends off all the days of her life. As Rashi Shimshon explains, this based on what Rashi says, Bereshit 24:6-7, that when Sarah Imenu passed away, certain blessings left as well. As Rashi Shimshon says, this is true by every woman. If she is the source of blessing in the house, then when she passes away, the blessing will leave too. Hence, she bestows upon him good and not bad all the days of her life. A trusting and trustworthy wife brings blessing to her husband and to her home. Wow. So what did we learn so far? The source of blessing to the home of the wife is when a woman trusts that through her husband the blessing will come, and she's trustworthy and doesn't do any bad to him. Hashem will bless him, the husband, and the bracha will come because she relies on him. The reward of the righteous wife. Strength and majesty are her attire, and she joyfully awaits the last day. Mishlei 31:25. A woman who helps and enables her husband to learn Torah and keep the mitzvos and merits reward for the Torah learning of her husband, as Rabbi Akiva told his students in 1958. Mine and yours, Torah, is hers, referring to his wife, Rachel. As well, the Gemara in Yoma 77a says that the wives of Talmidei Chachamim who lose sleep to help their husbands learn, Hashem rewards them greatly in the world to come. The Zohar, Vayechi 226b, says that the mitzvahs that a person does create spiritual clothing for his soul in the world to come. With this, the Shimon explains the above pasuk. The Torah is called Oz, strength, as the pasuk says in Tehillim 29:11. Hashem Oz le'amo yiten. Hashem gives strength to his nation. And the Mishnah says in Uktzin 3 that this pasuk is referring to the giving of the Torah. The word Vehada refers to the mitzvahs as can be seen from the term Hidur mitzvah, beautification of mitzvahs. Based on this, as Shimon says, that the pasuk refers to a woman who supports her husband in his Torah, Oz, and mitzvahs Vehadar in this world. Vehadar. Through this, she merits a spiritual attire. And although in this world she endures difficulty, she joyfully awaits the last day. As in the world to come, she will rejoice. Not only that, the Arizal writes that by doing so, they will not have to return as a Gilgul, a reincarnation. A woman who helps her husband serve Hashem merits spiritual clothing in the world to come, a great honor. I was at the Shalom Bayis class yesterday, and Rabbi Waxman said, she was asked a question. Somebody asked in the class, they said, how can I give a chizuk to a woman, a lady, a girl, who got married to a kollel guy, and he's learning all day, and she's working, support him. How do you give a chizuk to her? And the girl says, how do you make her feel that, yes, he's learning, but it's not like she's being taken advantage of? This is the wording she used. Rabbi Maxman said, you have to understand something. When a man learns Torah, the reward that a woman gets for supporting such a husband is so great, both in this world and the next. It's greater than any roof he can provide for you, and any riches and any physical pleasure he could give you. That's how great the Torah learning is. The zechus. When I heard this, I was like, wow, I'm so happy I was at the class and I heard those words. Silence is a virtue. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and a lesson of kindness is on her tongue. Mishlei 31:26. This passage praises the woman who does not speak a lot. Oh, I'm going to talk about it today. This is because naturally women speak a lot. Brachos 48b. And inevitably, speaking a lot will always include many unwise remarks. Therefore, the pasuk praises the woman who only speaks when she has something intelligent to say and otherwise keeps quiet. Wow. The Shimshon continues to explain the end of the pasuk along these lines as well. The Gemara 53b recounts how a Tana once came to a fork in the road and asked Bruria, Rav Meir's wife, who happened to be standing there, which road leads to Lod? She answered him sharply and said, Fool! Didn't the sages say not to talk too much with a woman? You should have simply said, which to Lod? Not only does a wise woman not speak too much, but she teaches others to be careful in all areas of speech as well. Hence, a lesson of kindness is on her tongue. Seemingly, according to the Shimshon, sometimes a sharp lesson is deemed a kindness. Not only does a wise woman not speak a lot, she teaches others to be careful with their words. My husband actually told me over Shabbos a story about Bruria. She was of Rav Meir Bal Hanas's wife. Well, she was a tzaddikus, she was a righteous woman. But she was tested with a tznius, and she was the most tsanua woman. She was tested with a tznius, and it says that she was seduced. She didn't perform the sin, but she was like she almost gave in internally, like she was about to give in to the sin. And she caught herself. She said, I can't believe this. That I was always so strong in all areas, whether it be news, whether it be speech, whether it be so much. And here I am, I'm feeling that I'm failing the test. And it says that she cried and cried and cried. And she even says that she committed suicide. Very sad story. I never knew this until my husband brought this up. Yeah, and here she is teaching us about how to be careful with the speech. And the Torah teaches us that no matter how careful we think we are, we can all fail, chas v'shalom, or almost fail. That's why we have to have gedarim. We have to have boundaries. That's why Torah says we have to have boundaries. That's why we should not talk to men unnecessarily. We should not mingle with men. We should not dance with men, chas v'shalom. And because it could bring to a sin, chas v'shalom. I'll never forget, it reminds me of the story. You want to hear? Okay, let me just finish this. Not only does a wise woman not speak a lot, she teaches others not to be careful with their words. Many years ago, Rabbi Gal Chaimov told a story that said the true story that actually happened. It was a night from wedding, and men and women were dancing together. And there was a married woman and married man. And this married woman had a friend, a male friend from the past, who liked her, even though he was married and she was married. And when they were at this wedding, they somehow happened to be next to each other, and they started to dance together. And before they know it, they, with the dance, with the movements, they slowly came to the door of the hall, and they left the door of the hall, and they ended up getting into the car and committing a sin. And somehow they realized they have to get back to the wedding. So they get back to the wedding. And after the wedding was over, the woman goes to her husband. They drive back home. And after the wedding, the husband wanted to be with his wife, and she was together with her husband as well, the same night. And that night she conceived. She conceived the child. She conceived the child, and 9 months later, she gave birth to a boy. A boy with the red hair. And she didn't know who the boy was from. And a boy, the male friend that she was dancing at the wedding with, he was the one with the red hair. And her husband started to have suspicions that, oh, what do you mean? All our kids with the black hair, and all of a sudden one kid is born with the red hair? 20 years go by. She never told this to anybody, the woman, until she decided at that point, she did tshuva. 20 years later, she wanted to do tshuva. And she remembered that sin. And she came to Rabbi Yigal Chaimov, and she asked. She said, what do I do? Do I tell my husband? No, I don't. And the answer was, you don't. To my own surprise, you don't. And my daughter said something very interesting. She said, they learned in high school, why men can have 1,000 wives and a woman cannot have 1,000 husbands. Because when she has kids, she doesn't know if chas v'shalom she's going to have more than one man. And if she has kids from them, she doesn't know from whom the kids are. So we are not going to know in Jewish nation who is Israel, who is Levi, and who is Cohen, etc. So in order to preserve the sanctity and the purity of Jewish nation, and that's why the Jewishness comes from the wife, from the mother, she can only have one man in her life. I'm not saying that men can have a million wives. No, absolutely not. That's not what I support. Absolutely not. And that's not what the Torah supports either. But so if it does happen, it's not looked down upon. It's looked not with the greatest respect, but it's not so much looked down. But when a woman has a shalom does, that's why we have laws of sota and all that, because a woman is the holiest item, the holiest being after Hashem. Believe it or not, yes. Eating properly adds to a woman of valor. And I'll never forget how I heard a story from Rabbi Chaimov at his shiur a long time ago. And he said, that's one of the reasons that we have to be extra strict and careful, that when we have a seuda, whether it be a bar mitzvah, whether it be a breast, whether it be a wedding, so there has to be a separate sitting for men, separate for women. There has to be separate dancing. Why? Because when you drink and when you eat and when you are let down, when your guards are down, the person ends up breaking chas v'shalom certain laws. But when you are your own species, so to speak, right? Females are with females and males with males. So there is less intermingling between two genders and less chance of sinning. And that's, as a matter of fact, one of the reasons also why when Rabbeim, when Chazal implemented that the wine has to be mevushal, that Rabbeim saw that there was a very high level of intermarriage between the Jews and the Goyim in the time of the history. And they said that, oh, it happens because there is too much mingling between the Goyim and Jews. They sit down together, they eat meals together, they drink together, and it makes them feel like, you know what? We speak the same language. We have such a camaraderie between each other. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, my daughter could marry your son. Your daughter could marry my son. And this is when the problem and trouble started. That's what Chazal says. No. We cannot sit down with the goyim and eat and drink together. They cannot even touch our wine, because if they touch, that's it. It cannot be drunk by a Jew. In order to have boundaries, to not to cause intermarriages and not to lose out on the sanctity of the Jewish nation. They say that intermarriage stole Jews from the Yiddishkeit more than Hitler did during the Holocaust. Do you know what that means? That's scary. That is absolutely scary. Eating properly adds to a woman of valor. Oh, this is another good one. Oh. She anticipates the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of laziness. Mishlei 31:27. As Rav Shimshon explains this pasuk in the most interesting fashion. The Gemara in Baba Kama 92a discusses the benefits of eating breakfast and says that from eating properly in the morning, one can outrun 60 strong runners. Wow. The Gemara in Baba Kama says. So if you, yes, you, my beautiful ladies, eat breakfast in the morning. When I was reading it, I'm like, wait a minute. What about intermittent fasting? It's again, the Gemara Baba Kama discusses the benefits of eating breakfast and says that from eating properly in the morning, one can outrun 60 strong runners. As well, Halacha and Shulchan Aruch Choshen Mishpat 337:19 requires that a worker eat properly in order to be able to do his job appropriately. Wow. This pasuk describes how the Eshes Chayil assesses the hard work she has to tackle in her house throughout the day. She anticipates the weight of her household. Not being negligent or lazy, she eats accordingly in the morning to have the proper strength to do everything she needs to, so not to become lazy due to undernourishment, and does not eat the bread of laziness. In order for a woman to properly fulfill her role, she must eat well, namely a good breakfast. Dear, how many of you skips breakfast? I skip a lot. I might end up just with a cup of coffee and just could go on. But here it reminds us that we should not skip the breakfast. And you know what? I'll be honest with you. Whenever I am in those, I'm feeling a little bit down, and I'm feeling that I have to eat breakfast today. I cannot have intermittent fasting. Believe it or not, I feel better. Yes, I do gain weight, and my scale is fighting with me, is not happy with me. But you know what? I feel better. I feel stronger, and I'm able to function better. So I noticed. So you have to listen to your body. But the Gemara says that if you eat breakfast, you're going to be able to outrun 60 fast runners. You could outrun them. That's how important it is to eat a good, solid breakfast. I'm in such love with this book called Growth Through Torah by Rabbi Zelig Pliskin. I would like to share with you what he has to say about some good lessons from Chayei Sarah. See the good in every life situation. And the life of Sarah was 100 years and 20 years and 7 years. These were the years of the life of Sarah. Bereshit 23:1. Rashi comments that all the years of Sarah's life were equally good. The question arises, how this could be said about Sarah, since she seems to have suffered very much in her life. For many years, she was childless. She experienced famine and exile. She was taken captive by the Pharaoh of Egypt and later by Avimelech. Rabbi Zusha Vanipoli explained that Sarah mastered the attribute of constantly saying, the stew is for the good, Gamzu Litova. Even those events that others might consider to be bad, she was aware that they were from the Almighty, and therefore she was able to evaluate them as being positive. The quality of one's life is not dependent on external situations. There are people whose lives seem to run quite smoothly. Nevertheless, they tend to evaluate minor frustrations as tragedies, chas v'shalom, and therefore view their lives in negative terms. The Torah ideal is to be aware that the purpose of your life is to perfect your character. And every life situation is an opportunity for growth. Sarah mastered this level of consciousness. Therefore, at the end of her life, which was constantly devoted to growth, it could be said about her that all her years were good. This lesson is most important for us to internalize. See the growth possible in every life aspect and event. In each difficult situation, ask yourself, how can I become a better person because of what happened? In Rabbi Aryeh Levine's younger years, he studied at the Slutsky Yeshiva, where Rabbi Esther Zalman Meltzer was the head. The two met again in Jerusalem when Rabbi Aryeh had grown to manhood, and they became neighbors in the holy city. As Rabbi Esther Zalman once said, talking with Rabbi Aryeh about his period of study in Slutsk, he asked innocently, "And where did you have your lodgings?" "Oh," replied the young man, "I was quite comfortably situated. I had a bench in the Schneider Shul, the tailor's synagogue, as my regular place to sleep." Mumbled Rav Esther Zalman, not altogether pleased at the answer. "And where did you eat?" "Oh, I had fine accommodation. Let me see. On Sundays, I went to this family." Thank you so much. Hashem should bless you. "I went to this family. On Tuesdays to that family, and on Thursdays to this other family." And he named 3 households in the town. "But what about the other days?" "Oh, I managed very well," said Reb Aryeh. And Rabbi Meltzer realized that as a young student, Reb Aryeh had gone hungry. "Please forgive me for lack of my lack of awareness," said Rabbi Meltzer. Rabbi Aryeh assured him, however, that he had neither suffered nor felt any neglect. He harbored no memories of deprivation. That night, Mrs. Meltzer came knocking at his door. Please come at once, she requested. Her husband was unable to sleep. Reb Aryeh found his former teacher sitting up with tears running down his cheeks. Whatever will I answer on my day of judgment? She pleaded. When they asked me how it is that I never knew that Reb Aryeh slept on a bench with no proper bed to call his own, that he did not have enough to eat, and he studied Torah in hardship and suffering. He continued until Reb Aryeh was able to reassure him that he really did not mind what had happened. At Tzaddik in our time, pages 21-3. So, in other words, what do we learn from this? What Rabbi Zalpatz see the good in every situation. So, whenever we are going through anything that happens, we should be able to see. We should be able to see how can I be a better person out of the situation that I'm in. How can I help others? Maybe because of what I went through. Maybe it gave me more life experience. Maybe it gave me something that I could be of help for somebody else. Why did Hashem make me go through this experience? Do introspection and do tshuva and accept it with love from Hashem and with joy. Kapara avonot. Get the commitment of specific individuals when you need something to be taken care of. Where do we learn it from? After Sarah died, Avram asked the Bnei Ches for a burial place for her. They replied, "Here is my master. You are a prince of the Almighty among us. In the best of our burial places, bury your dead. None of the men among us will deny you his burial site to bury your dead." Bereshit 23:6. Even though the Bnei Ches consented to Avram's burying his wife on their land, he specifically asked for a place and territory belonging to Ephron ben Tzochar. The question arises, since the Bnei Ches said to Avram, "No person among us will prevent you from burying your dead," why did Avram make a point of asking Ephron for his field? Why didn't he just go and bury Sarah? Avram knew, explained the Chafetz Chaim, that when a group of people speak as a whole and say that they will do something, each one will refer you to someone else when it comes to putting the lofty words into action. Therefore, Avram persisted in wanting to speak specifically to one individual in order to ensure that he would personally allow him to buy the piece of land. Chafetz Chaim al HaTorah. This concept is important to remember when you try to motivate a group of people to commit themselves to some worthy project. It's easy for an entire group to say, "We will all help. You can count on us. As soon as you need our assistance, we'll be there." What they really mean could be, "Someone else will do it. Of course, I won't be able to do it." Whenever you want to make certain that something will really be taken care of, get a commitment from a person who has the courage to say, "I'll do it." When I was reading this, I said to myself, "Wow, this is so funny." Because a lot of times I could, let's say, have dishes in the sink and I could tell the kids, "Kinderlach, who is going to help mommy? Can you please help mommy and wash the dishes in the sink?" 20 minutes passes and nobody did it. And the kids would say, "Mommy, you have to say specifically, so-and-so, could you please help mommy and help me and do it? Or so-and-so." And I started doing it. And it works. I said, wow, what the Rabbi Zelig Pliskin says, it works. This is the lesson we have to learn. When you want something done, you ask specifically who is good at it and who will be having a courage to want to do it. Let's say one kid of mine, she loves washing dishes. She loves it. So if I ask her, she's going to do it with pleasure. She will run and do what mommy said. So if the other kid does not like washing dishes, it's the least thing she wants to do. So I don't ask her. Why? Because she could do with something else. She could do with vacuuming the floors or mopping the floor or whatever the household needs. So in other words, you ask commitment. Let's look at the words. Get a commitment from a person who has the courage to say, I'll do it. I'll do it. When the person has the courage to say, I'll do it, get a commitment from that person. That's what we learn. Next. Feel pleasure when you pay off debts. That's a good one also. I love it. What do we learn? Where do we learn this from? From this parsha, Chai Sarah. And Avram spoke to Ephron in the ears of the people of the land, saying, if you will, but listen to me, I want to give the money for the land, take it from me, and I will bury my debt there. Bereshit 23:13. Rashi comments on the word nasati, which implies that Avram already gave the money, although he merely said that he wanted to give it. Avram said to Ephron, the money is completely ready for you. I wish that I had already given it to you. The Torah contrasts Avram's attitude toward money with Ephron's. Ephron had a strong desire for money and was very exacting to get a high price for his land, even though he spoke of his generosity. Avram, on the other hand, was eager to pay his debt before it was actually due. He did not want to keep money that was not his, even for a very short while. Therefore, he said, I wish I had already given it. Ramat Shmuel. There are some people who keep procrastinating when it comes to paying back debts, or paying for an item they have bought. They're basically honest and would never think of cheating anyone, but they find it extremely difficult to part with their money. Therefore, they keep pushing off returning money that is due to others. Learn from Avram to feel pleasure and joy when you pay off a debt. A young man in Bnei Brak used to type the handwritten manuscripts of Rabbi Yaakov Yisrael Kanievsky to prepare them for publication in the Kehilas Yaakov series. Late one winter night, the typist heard a knock on his door and found the stipler standing there. The stipler was the father of Rav Chaim Kanievsky. The young man was taken aback. Did he make some serious typing error? I came to pay you for today's work, said the stipler. You left the papers at my house when I wasn't home, so I came now. But I specifically told you when I accepted the job that it was not necessary for you to pay me right away. True, said the stipler. You wanted to be sure that I wouldn't transgress the prohibition against delaying payment to a worker overnight. But what about the positive commandment I have of paying a worker on the same day? The Jewish Observer, November 1985. So in other words, if somebody worked for you, right, you have an obligation to pay the person the same day. At the very least, you could pay by Friday before the end of the week. Yes. What's that?
Or the next sunset.
Okay, my daughter's correcting me. She learned something that I didn't. Before the next day.
Was near the closest sunset / sunrise.
Before the nearest sunset or / sunrise. Okay, before the next day, basically.
The day, it's the sunset. If you do it at the night, it's the sunrise.
If you do it during the day, before the night. If the person worked, if you worked. From Shkia to Shkia.
In the day, if you work, then I still to Shkia.
Correct. So let's say if the person worked during the day. Let's say somebody works for me during the day.
7 a.m. to.
So before the end of the day, I have to pay the person. Before the Shkia. Yeah, before the end of the day. That's the end of the day, a Jewish day. Okay, fine. And if the person, let's say, works at night, in the evening, let's say, I have to do it, let's say, till the sunrise. So technically we should do it right away. Okay, next. Learn.
It's in order to be late payment, but if you want to get the mitzvah will do on time, then you have to do it.
Okay. Here's an addition to that, what I just said. That's in order to be not to be late with the payment, but if you want, in order to get a mitzvah, you have to pay right away. Okay, got it. Okay, learn to understand the true meaning of what others say. Oh, that's another fantastic one. What a lesson we're gonna learn. Ephron agreed. Listen to this one. Ephron agreed to give the Ma'aras HaMachpelah as the burial site for Sarah to Avram. And after several exchanges, and Abraham heard Ephron, and Abraham weighed for Ephron the silver which he spoke about in the ears of the Bnei Ches, 400 shekels of silver that merchants used. Bereshit 23:16. On the words, and Abraham heard, the Rashbam commented, a hint is sufficient to the wise man. A hand is sufficient to the wise man. On the words, Ephron spoke as if he were a generous man. He spoke to Abraham with the greatest respect. He ostensibly offered him the burial site free of charge. He mentioned, however, in passing, the 400 shekels that one might usually pay for this is nothing between friends. Your friendship is more precious than money. Take it without payment. See Rashi and Rashbam to verse 15. But Abraham took the hint. He was perceptive and realized that Ephron did not really want to give the land for nothing. It might seem to a naive bystander that Ephron only mentioned the sum of money as an aside. That was just a passing remark of no significance. But Avram heard, quote unquote, and with his well-developed intuition, understood Ephron's real intentions. He responded to Ephron's inner wishes and not to his superficial words. This ability to differentiate between what someone says and what he really means is an attribute that we must develop. For many areas of spiritual growth, it is essential. A few examples. Someone makes a belittling remark about something he just accomplished. The person would really appreciate a kind word. He might be uncertain about the quality of what he did and wants reassurance. This encouragement could be beneficial in motivating him for further accomplishment. If you really hear him, quote unquote, you will say those kind words. You ask someone if you need your help. No, I can do it myself. It's not so difficult, he might say. Taking his words at their face value, you might just walk away. But if you are perceptive, you will know that he really needs your help. But he's either too shy or too embarrassed to directly ask you. Learn to be perceptive, to realize when your help is needed and really welcomed. A person might be very busy right now. You would like to take up some of his time about a matter that is not really so important to you. When you ask him if you are disturbing him, he replies, not too much. I can always stay up late tonight to finish what needs to be done. Perhaps he can really afford to give you the time. On the other hand, he might be fervently wishing you wouldn't impose on him right now. It's very difficult for him to take off any time today. Learn to hear, quote unquote, with an awareness of what a person is hinting at. By gaining the sensitivity and perceptiveness, you will be able to reach greater heights in the mitzvah of loving your fellow man. Wow. The Stipler used to say in the name of Chazon Ish that when someone came to speak with him about a number of topics, he knew that as a rule, the last thing they spoke about was the real reason they had come to consult him. Everything else was just to conceal this. Pnine Rabbeinu Kahilos Yaakov, page 119. So in other words, when somebody comes to you with some request to ask of you, they will start the conversation like something like this. Hi, how are you? How are the kids? How is everything doing? Is everything okay? How is work? How is how is your health? How is everything going? And then after you go over a few things, at the end, after they touch up other things, they might say, "Oh, by the way, do you think you could help with the question I that I need help with? Let's say I need my child to be tutored in Gemara." And if you know, this was the reason they came to you for. You should be intuitive and perceptive and read between the lines and see why the person said what he said. Did he really mean what he said? And did he try to conceal, and because he didn't want to be too embarrassed, etc. And that's a skill, by the way. You accomplish something each and every day. And Abraham was old, he came with his days, Bereshit 24:1. There's an idea expressed by many scholars that Abraham came with all his days. Not one day in his life was wasted. Not one day in his life was wasted. Each and every day he accomplished something. Ma'ayana Shel Torah. That's the source. Each day is an entirely new and different experience from any other. True, yesterday you might have done a lot, but you still have to make an effort to accomplish something today. At the beginning of each day, ask yourself, what can I accomplish today? At the end of each day, ask yourself, what have I accomplished today? If you cannot think of an answer to the latter question, make certain to do at least one small thing before you retire for the night. For example, study some Torah, write a chesed letter, make a list of goals. It's a very good idea. Accomplish something each and every day. Whatever goal you have, something small towards that goal. It could be your health. It could be you need to go to bed early. It could be you need to retire for the night after you finish, let's say, washing all the dishes in the sink. Make sure that the sink is all shiny and ready for you to greet you like a mirror in the morning. Anything you make a goal for you to improve in. So make a small adjustment. Be very careful to keep to the truth. And she finished giving him to drink, and she said, also for your camels, I will draw water until they finish drinking. Bereshit 24:19. Note that Rivka was careful to say that she would draw water for the camels rather than saying she would give the camels to drink. Okay, stop for a second and let's go back. Note that Rivka was careful to say that she would draw water for the camels rather than saying that she would give the camels to drink. Rivka was meticulously careful not to say anything that would be untrue. Therefore, she said she would draw water as if to say, I don't know for sure if they will drink it or not, but I will draw water for them. If they want to, they can drink. Abarbanel. Rabbi Shmuel Walkin added that we see here how careful we should be to keep away from saying anything untrue. He cites as an example Rabbi Raphael of Bereshit, who was always very careful to refrain from saying anything that was untrue. When it was raining outside and he came into his house and was asked if it was still raining, he would reply, when I was outside, it was raining. He didn't want to say explicitly that it was raining now, because perhaps after he came into the house, the rain had stopped. Ramat Shmuel. This might seem to be very minor and inconsequential, but if a person is careful with keeping to the truth in such instances, he will definitely be careful in more important matters. On the other hand, if a person is careless with the truth, he can even be tempted to lie, chas v'shalom, in major ways. Wow. So many beautiful lessons we learned from Chayei Sarah, Parsha, from Zera Shimshon, as well as from the book Growth Through Torah by Rabbi Zelek Pliskin. I love it. I absolutely love it. Wait, excuse me 1 second. Okay. I wanted to share with you what I learned yesterday at the film bias class from Rebbetzin Waxman. She said something absolutely beautiful, and I have to share. She said, it's very important that we as women create a perfect balance of a giver and receiver, and mashpia and mikabel. What does it mean? She says a man's role in life.
Allie!
Oh my God, who is that? That's very loud. Sorry. Okay. A man's role in life is to be mashpia. What does it mean, mashpia? To give, to spread, to spread Torah, to give to the wife, to give to the kids. That's the main role of a man. To be mashpia, to be a giver. Very important. And we see it even from the physical perspective, how the way Hashem created a man. A man gives a sperm to his wife, and the wife accepts it, receives it, and from the sperm of the husband, she makes a baby. I mean, not she makes a baby, but Hashem makes a baby. But she gives him a baby. Man brings wheat to the home, and the woman makes from the wheat bread for him. Man brings produce home, and a woman from the produce makes a meal and a dinner for the household. So man is the person who brings, and a woman the one who receives and makes it even greater. Okay? But in order for a man to give, a woman has to learn and become a receiver. What do you mean to learn to become a receiver? Mekabelet, a receiver. Example, there was a woman who wrote to Mrs. Rebbetzin Waxman. She said, her husband, this woman, husband said, "Oh, you look so beautiful today." Her reply was, "But I don't feel so beautiful. I don't feel so good today. As beautiful as I may seem in your eyes." And this woman said to the Rebbetzin Waxman, because she rejected, listen to this, rejected the gift of the compliment that was graciously offered by the husband, he never made that compliment again for the next 3 years. 3 years. That's quite a bit. So as women, what are we supposed to do? Accept. When somebody offers something, we say, "Thank you." Another example. A woman was trying to lose weight, and no matter how much she tried, she's just not able to lose weight. Whatever, a million reasons. And she just, one day, she was at the event, and she saw such good yummies, And she said, you know what? I'm gonna eat. And she had baked goods, and it was so yummy. It was delicious. And she went on a scale, and the scale was not happy with her. And meanwhile, her husband sees her, and he says to her, wow. Let's say her name is Gitti. Gitti, I think you look like you lost some weight. Meanwhile, she gained weight. You look like you lost some weight. What did she reply? Thank you for noticing it. Thank you for noticing it. You follow? We have to be graciously able to receive the compliment and not to push it back. When we are offered help, accept it without criticism. An example was brought. A cholent, everybody knows what cholent is, was spilled on the floor. And a man offered his wife to clean it. He would say, wow, that's so beautiful. So he goes and gets a broom and starts cleaning cholent off the floor with the broom. What would normal woman think at that moment? Normal. She would say, ouch, we don't clean cholent with the broom. That's not how you help. And the woman says to Rabbi Matmon, because I took your classes, I didn't say anything. And I accepted the help without criticism. And then the women in the class, when I attended yesterday, they said, okay, Rabbi Matmon, question. So can she go over with a couple of shmatas, like wipes or bounties, wet bounties? Can she say, let me help you and like assist to make it the right way, so to speak? She says no. She says no. She just stood there and waited for him to finish. And then she saw that some barley was left on the radiator. And then he noticed later, the husband, and he says, oh, I see some barley is there. Let me finish helping, the right way. He goes back to get a broom and continues smearing, so to speak, all the sauce and all the cholent and all the barley on the floor into the dustpan and whatever. And the wife is taking a deep breath and says, thank you so much for your help. And now the question, of course, one of the ladies from the class says, Dr. Matmon, I don't understand. My husband is helping the wrong way. We all know it as women. And I'm supposed to say thank you and not to go to help him and not to criticize you and not to teach him nothing. She says nothing. And it's going to take me to do double work? Yes. But why? Why? As women, and that's the hard part, we need to learn to accept help without criticism. But you might say, I don't need this help. I could do it myself in 2 seconds. Then there's double work. And the woman says, I did not criticize my husband when he cleaned the cholent with the broom. And after he was finished and he left the shul, says, I ran to clean the entire area with whatever soap and water and whatever. And I ran to grab that broom and ran hot water on it. So to clean all the cholent off it. So I should be able to let it be clean and let it dry up and let it be able to be used next time we need it. Why we as women we should not be rejecting the help when the help is not offered properly? Because in order to be able to receive help in the future, we have to accept whatever help is offered. In order for us to be a queen, we have to treat him as a king. You don't answer to the king. You don't criticize the king. And you don't tell him he makes mistakes? I thought it was so beautiful. And another thing I learned is to always say thank you. Another beautiful example she gave her, Mr. Maxman. A man wanted to buy a piece of jewelry for his wife. He goes to the jewelry store many years ago, obviously, because there are no prices like that. And he notices a piece that he liked, that he wanted to buy for his wife. And the piece was for $500. There is no price like this for jewelry today. So at whatever, many years ago. So he says, how much is this? The man says, $500. He says, I only have 300. He goes, okay. The man says, pay 300 now, and you could always pay 200 later. The man says, no, I'm going to come back when I have all full 500. Fine. Next month he comes back. He says, I have 500. Is the piece of jewelry that I chose for my wife, is it still available or it's already gone? And the man says, it's still available. Fine. He buys a piece of jewelry and he gives it to his wife. The next day, the wife takes this piece of jewelry and goes to that jeweler and says, I came to exchange it. The man sees the piece of jewelry, the seller. He says, I'm sorry. I don't exchange gifts. What do we learn? We learn that when our husband gives us something, even if it's not our color, even if it's not our style, whatever it might be, it's not our liking, we have to accept that people a good receiver. Then he will be a good giver. Ladies asked, how does he become a king if I don't tell him how to do it? He's acting not the way I expect of him or whatever. He will mature up. He will grow into the king. He will make better choices if we don't criticize and accept with love and respect and don't answer back and always give gratitude and say thank you for everything he does. And she said something beautiful. She said, the more we compliment men, the less they compliment us. The more we give gifts to men, the less they give gifts to us. Rabbi Maxman. So she said, man does not want compliments. What do you mean? Everybody wants compliments. Man wants acknowledgement. Man wants admiration. Instead of saying, I like your new shirt. I like your new suit. You're liking the suit, you're liking a shirt. We should say instead, Rabbi Maxman said, should say, you are a good dresser. You are constatation of facts. You are a good dresser. Or you could say even, you're always a good dresser. Or if he is organized, you're so organized. I admire your organizational skills. You're such a good speaker. You could convince anybody anything. You're amazing. What we don't make up stuff, but whatever strengths that you see your husband has, compliment on it, not as a compliment as, but acknowledge it and show admiration. I wanted to try it. And this way, when next time we meet, you're going to tell me if you tried it and it worked. And one woman wrote to her, she said, Rabbi Maxman, I was using the tools that you shared with us. By the way, these are paid classes. We're paying for every class. It's not free of charge. And so she said, my life became so delicious. My life became so delicious. So if you want your life to be more delicious, you implement these tools of showing gratitude and saying thank you to your husband, not criticizing him when he offers help, and accepting graciously the compliments he offers you. Learn how to be a receiver and let him be the giver. Today I listened to a shiur with Rabbi Israel Yakubov on raising kids, and one beautiful lesson I took out that I wanted to share with those who didn't hear, and if you heard, it's a good repeat. He said, there was a man who served in the army, and in the army in Israel, there was a synagogue in the army. And another man needed to say Kaddish for his father. So at that moment, they had 9 men. They needed a 10th man. So the 10th man who was nearby, so this man who needed to say Kaddish for his father, he says, excuse me, let's say his name is Yosef, let's say, excuse me, Yosef, do you mind to join us? I need 10 men for Kaddish for my father. Yosef says, no, I'm not going to join. He says, why not? He goes, listen to what he says. He goes, he says, I cannot take the smell of the synagogue. He says, what do you mean? You cannot take the smell of the synagogue. Apparently, listen to this. When he was a young kid, this Yosef guy, his father always took him to the shul by force. He didn't want to go. Yosef, let's go. Time to go to shul. Time to daven. You're a man. You're a boy. You're coming with Abba. Sit over here. Don't move. Pray. And he said that the taste of the shul was associated since childhood with the feeling of dislike. He remembered even the smell of the synagogue, and the association of it brought bad memories. So what are you supposed to do? You might say, listen, in our generation, our parents just looked at us and we were all shaking already. We knew that we better shape up, otherwise, it's not going to be a good outcome. In today's generation, they say it doesn't work. So instead, he says, Rabbi Israel was said beautiful. He goes, why do you think we give candies in shul? We know it's not healthy. We know the Torah says, protect your health. Make sure you do everything possible not to get sick. So why do we give candies to the kids when they come to shul? It's just one simple reason. That the kids who come to shul should have a good association with the sweetness of the candy in their memory, in their mind. This candy, oh my goodness, I came to shul and the candy man at the shul, he came over to me, gave me a hug and gave me a candy. I now want to run to shul. Association. There was a time during the war when the people had to give them pain medication. And when they gave them pain medication, they also put a certain music in the background. Every time they gave pain medication, they put a certain music in the background. And slowly, they wanted to wean them off the painkillers. As soon as they would put the music background that came usually with the painkiller, the pain started to disappear without a painkiller. How's it possible? You would say it's impossible. It's possible. It's called association. When your brain, when your mind associates that painkiller together with that beautiful, soothing background music, and when you hear it, it's already calming and soothing. You don't take a painkiller yet. You're okay. It reminds me, and I'm going to end off very soon with that. Many years ago, I was working in Maimonides Hospital in Med-Surg unit, Gelman 8, on the 8th floor, Gelman building, on the Med-Surg floor, and we had a patient. Actually, I'm mixing up stories. It was not a hospital patient. It was actually a nursing home patient, Metropolitan Jewish nursing home patient, who came, was a young man, who came because he was a drug addict. And we were supposed to give him, around the clock, his pain medication. And our doctor's team wanted to win him off it. And he told us, nurses, what I want you to do is to give him normal saline. Salty water, sterile, salty water, normal saline. And tell him this is morphine, or this is whatever, methadone, whatever he was on. And we did. I remember it was me. I had to give it. So I come to him, I goes, Mr. So-and-so. Yeah, okay, so I have your, whatever, methadone. And I'm giving this injection. And he's like laying down. Like for a good 10 minutes. And then he keeps running after me. Says, Nurse, you didn't give me methadone. It wasn't methadone. I'm like, didn't say anything. Said, I'll talk to your doctor. And we spoke. I was very surprised. For 10 minutes, maybe he was waiting for it to kick in. He didn't get that kick. I don't know. But for 10 minutes, he was not telling that he was in pain. So what does it tell us? I don't know at the end. I don't remember. I believe at the end we did give him, but the doctor wanted to see if it's if we were able to win him off with the placebo effect by giving him and see if it's going to work or not. The doctor wanted to see, and I believe we ended up giving it to him. But for those 10 minutes, I remember it was a lesson for me that it's possible. Maybe to withdraw the entire dose was too much. Maybe to slowly taper it off. That would be a better solution. But just to tell you that in order to have a good taste in the mouth of the child with something, is, for example, a homework. Some kids take normally the homework, and some kids hate homework. They just don't like it. So we have to try to associate with some kind of reward. Would it be his favorite almond cookie that you made at home, fresh and healthy and yummy? Would it be his favorite fruit? Would it be his favorite little piece of chocolate? Something that will make him feel good that I accomplished after doing homework. And it's not so bad. It's okay. Reward system even. With that, I wanted to thank you all for joining us. To say that I'm glad that you were able to make it to the class, and please share this class. We're going to post it on YouTube. Please share it with your family and friends, and let everybody learn and grow from it. And Bezrat Hashem, in the zechut that you are doing it, may Hashem bless you all with the health, with wealth, and may the bracha of Zera Shimshon be upon you. May the blessing of Zera Shimshon be upon you. The promise that he promised that whoever learns Zera Shimshon will be blessed with the health, wealth, and kids around the table like olive shoots, and honor. And Bezrat Hashem, everything you do, learning Torah, growing through Torah, may it bring nachat ruach to Hashem, and may it bring you hatzlacha in everything you do and mazel in everything you do. I love you all. Thank you for joining us. Have a blessed night and a blessed the rest of the week. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us.